we have here human circulatory system. Our human circulatory system consists of heart, different blood vessels and blood. Mammalian hearts, including human being, have 4 chambers, 2 atria and 2 ventricles. Because of this 4-chamber heart, okay, our heart is, we know that, divided into left and the right side. Because of this partition, oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood is not mixed up like the lower organisms. So oxygen carrying and the distributing capacity of mammals is higher comparing to other lower forms. Now, where is our heart located? Our heart is located just behind the sternum bone, okay, just behind the sternum bone. Now between the 2 lungs, slightly shifted towards the left side. Now this is the structure of our heart, okay. Now let's see here, it is apex, the apex is facing downwards, okay, downwards. We are having here diaphragm, so the apex is facing, pointing downwards, and it is also facing towards the left side. This is the left side, and the base of the heart is facing upward and pointing towards the right side, okay. So apex is downwards and base is upward. Now our heart is what? Double membrane. Let's see here, see double membrane, these are the double membrane, and the wall of the heart, so this is the wall of the heart, is called what? Pericardium, okay. This is pericardium. Now between this what? Between this double membrane there is space, so the space is filled up with what? Pericardial fluid. So what is the function of this pericardial fluid? The function of this pericardial fluid is to protect our heart from external shocks, and it also helps in the lubrication of our heart. Now let's come to this chamber of the heart. See, we are having what? 4 chamber. The upper portion is called atria. We are having 2 atria. This is what? Left side, okay, left atrium, right atrium, and 2 ventricles, left ventricle and right ventricle. Now let's compare these 2 atria, okay. Left atria, okay, right atria. The chamber is smaller on the left side, okay. See, the chamber is smaller but the wall is thicker, okay. Left atrium is having what? Thicker wall, slightly thicker wall comparing to the right atrium. Now why is it so? Because greater pressure has to be applied on the left atrium, okay. So pressure has to be applied in pumping the heart into this ventricle, okay. That's why the wall is what? Thicker. Now let's compare the overall wall. The heart is not symmetrical, we can see, okay. The walls are also what? Not symmetrical. Now here, see the ventricle wall, the ventricular wall are thicker than the atrial wall, we can see here, okay. So why the walls of the ventricles are thicker comparing to the atrial wall? Because the ventricle has to pump the blood out of the heart so that it reaches different organs, okay, different cells and tissues of our body. But the atrium, okay, both the atria has to pump only to reach the ventricle. That's why greater pressure has to be applied, what? It is this in the ventricle comparing to the 2 atria. That's why the walls of the ventricles are thicker as compared to the walls of the atria. Now again, let's see. Let's compare the walls of these 2 ventricles, okay. See, left side, okay, the walls of the left ventricle are thicker comparing to the walls of the what? Right ventricle, okay. Why is it so? Because see, greater pressure has to be applied, okay, here on the left ventricle, okay. See, from the left ventricle oxygenated blood will be, see, this one, propel out of the heart so that it reaches different organs, different cells and tissues of our body, okay. That's why the wall of the since greater pressure has to be applied here, okay, on the left side, see, greater pressure has to be applied here. But on the right ventricle, okay, it has to pump with pressure so that it reaches the lungs, okay. Because see, on this side, okay, on the right ventricle, we have what? This deoxygenated blood, okay. So the blood will be propelled out of the heart, okay, to reach the lungs for oxygenation, okay. That's why it is thinner. So these are about the wall. Now let's see here again, the heart is divided into left side and the right side, we know that, okay. And the right side and the left side are divided by what? Muscular septum. Our heart is made up of what? Cardiac muscles. Now this muscular septum, which divides the left and the right ventricle, it is called what? Interventricular septum, okay. So interventricular septum will divide our ventricles into left ventricle and the right ventricles. Again, there is a septum, okay, which divides the two atria, okay, left atrium and the right atrium, okay. The division is done by what? The septum called interatrial septum. So interatrial septum will divide our heart into left atrium and the right atrium. So this is about the atrium. Now let's go to the right side of our heart. Okay. Now let's go here. Okay, on the right atrium. Now the right atrium has what? 3 main blood vessels. Okay. We are having here superior vena cava. Okay, inferior vena cava, and another blood vessel here, coronary sinus. Okay, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and coronary sinus. These 3 are the main veins which bring deoxygenated blood, okay, into the right atrium. Okay, they will collect the deoxygenated blood from different parts of our body, and the blood will be brought into the right atrium. Now this superior vena cava will what? Collect the blood from the upper part of our body. We are having head, we are having neck, and we are having arms, okay, from the upper portion of the body. And the superior vena cava, after collecting the deoxygenated blood, the blood will be brought into the right atrium. Inferior vena cava, okay, inferior vena cava will collect the blood from lower portion of our body and will be brought into the right atrium. And what about this? Coronary sinus. Coronary sinus will collect the blood from the heart itself, okay, from the heart itself, and will be drained into the right atrium. So after receiving the blood, okay, the deoxygenated blood in the right atrium will contract, okay, and the blood will be forced into the right ventricle. So we can see the valve is present here called tricuspid valve, okay. So this tricuspid valve closest, okay. So altogether we are having 4 valves in this diagram, okay. So on the right side we are having what? Tricuspid valve. On the left side we are having what? Bicuspid valve. And there are another 2 valves, okay, present at the opening of these 2 blood vessels, that is what? Pulmonary artery and the aorta, okay. These valves are called semilunar valves, okay. So 2 semilunar valves, okay, and we are having tricuspid valve and we are having bicuspid valves. The function of these valves is to prevent the backflow of blood, okay. Now another thing is that, see here I have drawn some red lines here, okay, small lines, okay. Now these tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve on the left and the right side, okay, are held together with the walls of the muscular walls of the ventricles by what? Connective tissue, okay. These are cords of connective tissue, okay. So this connective tissue helps to join the valve with the papillary muscles of the walls of the ventricles, okay. These connective tissue are called what? Chordateinae. So chordateinae connects the valve with the walls of the ventricles, and it also helps these valves to remain firm, rigid in their place. Now, so after the blood is propelled, okay, into the right ventricle, the valve closes and the right ventricle contracts, okay. The deoxygenated blood, okay, will be forced out, okay, with the help of pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery will take away the blood, okay, from this right ventricle and to the lungs, okay. So in the lungs the blood will be again what? Oxygenated, okay. The deoxygenated blood will become oxygenated in the lungs, okay. There will be exchange of gases between the capillaries and this one alveoli of the lungs, and the oxygenated blood will be again brought back into the heart. Which part of the heart? On the left side, okay, left atrium, okay. On the left atrium with the help of this what? Pulmonary veins. So pulmonary veins will what? Will bring the oxygenated blood in the left atrium of our heart, okay. Now see, so after the oxygenated blood is brought back into the heart, okay, into the left atrium of our heart, the left atrium contracts, okay. So the blood will be again propelled into this left ventricle, okay. So the valve closes after that, okay. This bicuspid valve closes, then the left ventricle contracts, okay. So when the left ventricle contracts, the oxygenated blood, okay, the blood rich in oxygen, which is dissolved in oxygen, okay, will be taken away by systemic aorta, okay. So this artery, the systemic aorta, will take away the blood, okay, the oxygenated blood, or the blood rich in oxygen, to and will be distributed to different parts of our body, different cells and tissues of our body, and it will help in what? Cellular respiration. Okay, so this is about the circulation. Now let's discuss about this, okay, the contraction of the heart. Where does contraction of our heart begins? The contraction of our heart is myogenic in nature and not neurogenic. Myogenic means what? Begins in the muscles itself, okay? So the contraction, the initiation of the contraction of our heart, okay, lies in the heart muscles, not in the brain. Okay, although it is the function of the heart is regulated by the nervous system, okay, the contraction begins in the heart muscles itself, and the part where the contraction initiates is called what? This SA node, okay, or sinoatrial node, okay. We can see, okay, on the wall of the right atrium, right side, right wall of the right atrium, just near this opening of this superior vena cava, there is a group of cells, a mass of tissue called what? SA node, sinoatrial node. This sinoatrial node is responsible for the initiation of contraction of our heart. Now the contraction will be what? Passed to the left and the right atrium, will be spread in concentric circles, okay. But this sinoatrial node, okay, the pacemaker, also known as the pacemaker of our heart, okay, the main pacemaker of our heart is not, okay, alone, okay, alone cannot perform all this. We cannot spread all the wave of contraction to the ventricles, okay, to reach the ventricles also, okay. So another node also have, okay, another node has to be there, okay. So there is another node here called AV node, okay. Now see, it is also present on the where? Wall of the right atrium, near the opening of this what? Coronary sinus, okay. So another node, another mass of tissue called AV node, atrioventricular node. AV node is present just near the opening of this coronary sinus, okay. So this node will what? Will receive the wave of contraction, okay, spread from what? SA node, okay. After receiving, it will spread to the walls of the ventricles. Now how it will spread? Now this AV node, okay, atrioventricular node is connected, okay, is connected with the muscle fibers. Here I have drawn here red lines here, these are what? Muscle fibers. So the muscle fibers originating from this what? AV node branches, we can see into left and the right side, and further branches into smaller branches, okay, called what? Purkinje fibers. So these smaller branches, okay, these fibers are called Purkinje fibers. So this left and the right muscle fibers along with these Purkinje fibers all together are called bundle of His, okay. So these Purkinje fibers, this bundle of His, okay, are responsible for spreading the web of contraction, okay, contraction in the wall of the ventricles, okay, as a result of which the ventricle will contract, okay. So after the contraction, the blood will be propelled out of the heart to different organs of our body. Okay, so this is about what? Contraction of our heart. So we have what? Discussed about the human circulatory system.